It's cold, it's cloudy. I'm about 80% sure it's gonna rain at some point today, and I have absolutely nowhere to be. Isn't it wonderful? I think I've just decided that I'm bored of this arrangement, of this layout, so I'm gonna move things around a little bit. There's a lizard in here. I've got to chase him down before my cats find him. Hello, my friend. If you could please navigate yourself into the containment unit, I would appreciate. One ever so slightly annoyed moon gecko. Should we go put you back outside? There is so much lizard poo back here. Better. By the way, I haven't forgotten that I have this enclosure. There's a few adjustments that I want to make to it. There's a few changes I want to make to the design, particularly to the design of the lid. Don't go off at me about that. I know, I've hyped for years how much I love this lid, how proud I am of this design, but I kind of like this design. Well, anyway, we're not going to go into that now. That is something I want to get started later this month, time permitting. Oh, hello, sir. Do you see that? That enclosure has been empty since May, which was 7 months ago, so I think it's time for a new resident. Meanwhile, what is this mess, sir? What has happened in here? I need to have a tidy up because this one is chaos. I feel like I have a degree of responsibility to warn anybody who is just getting into small pet keeping that it is the gateway hobby to hoarding rubbish. And if you're looking at that thinking that's not so bad, that's because you haven't seen all the other boxes, or the cupboard, or part of my attic. But you'll only feel bad about it up until the point where you see the price of commercial hamster toys. Suddenly having a junkyard hamster, not so bad. But becoming a junk hoarder is the secret to having happy hamsters. There is a seemingly endless amount of enrichment that can be made for most pets using most household junk. When it comes to hamsters, one of the most overlooked areas of enrichment is puzzle toys. Anytime that somebody comes to me looking for advice because they think their hamster is bored and they can't figure out why, they say the enclosure is big enough, they've got deep substrate, they've got a suitable safe wheel, they've ticked all the boxes they've been told to tick, but the hamster still seems to be bored. They're still acting out in ways that suggest there isn't enough. What's the secret to solving that problem? Puzzles. Physical enrichment is important. It's what most people focus on when they're setting up their enclosure, but mental enrichment is just as important. And how easy or difficult these puzzles need to be really depends on the individual hamster. Some will find simple puzzles too simple, and some will find hard puzzles too hard. So you do have to play around a bit and experiment to figure out exactly what your hamster needs to keep their brain happy. To compare some recent examples, our last hamster Lemonade was pretty easy to satisfy. She liked very simple puzzles. Her favourite was this little paper flower. I have a video on how to make that, which I'll link wherever the links go. Lemonade could easily spend 40 minutes playing with one of these flowers. They kept her so happy. She went through only a couple of them in her life because she kept them in pretty good condition. Lotus, on the other hand, the first time I gave him one of these flowers to see if he could figure it out, He ripped it to shreds. There was nothing left of it. There was nothing for me to even take out of the enclosure afterwards. And his method of choice is pretty consistent. No matter what kind of puzzle I give to him, if he can chew his way into the center, he will. And once he's finished chewing his way into the center, he will just shred the whole thing up to make sure I can't hide more things in it. So because of that little feature, I go through way more puzzles, way quicker with Lotus than I think I have done with any of our past hamsters. We've had good puzzle solvers in the past, but I can't think of anybody who was quite so ferociously determined. So with Lotus, I find that it makes my life a heck of a lot easier if I just make him a ton of puzzles in one big batch, store them aside, and then just dish them out to him throughout the month. So that's what we're doing here. It's the beginning of December. I am completely out of his puzzles. I'm going to make a whole new batch of them, and we'll be good to go. I do try and vary the puzzles as much as I can because he knows how to figure most of them out. There's a couple that he particularly likes, mostly involving cardboard tubes and egg boxes. And I'm also going to make him some things that aren't really puzzles, but they're kind of slow feeders, I guess you'd describe them as. So we're going to start with some old classics. These were the popular toys back in the early days of hamster keeping. I say the early days of modern hamster keeping. Back when the hamster community was much smaller, there were even fewer things available on the market, and everybody just kind of had to make do with DIY using stuff around their house. But there's a good reason these kind of toys were so popular. So I've taken a cardboard tube, regular toilet roll tube, I've flattened it down, which has given me this square tube. Half of you already know which toy I'm making, and what you want to do is, on one of these folded edges, just cut a couple of small triangles out, like you're making one of those paper snowflakes. You want to avoid putting them too close to the edge or making them too big. I'm going to fold it over, and on that side I'm just going to put one triangle in the middle, and then when you unfold it, you've got these little holes around the edges. So now you want to cut into the ends, following along those fold lines. Cut about a centimeter, and then fold those edges. So that's going to create these 4 flaps, like on a cardboard box. And to close this end up, you can do a little trick. You might have seen this before. You fold in each of the flaps, going clockwise, let's just say, or counterclockwise. Either way, doesn't matter. But when you get to the last flap, you fold it over, and you kind of, it could be a bit fiddly, you kind of tuck it in under that first flap while tucking it over the last flap. And that will seal in the end of your box without having to use any kind of glue. Now you want to do the same at the other end. We're going to cut the flaps, but you don't want to close it straight away. So now you've got your 4 flaps at the other end, but before you close this end off, you want to stuff this box full of food. My advice with all of these puzzles is to not fill them with treat foods, but to fill them with your hamster's regular food mix, and then to offer them alongside scatter feeding. These puzzles and foragers are all intended to be part of your hamster's daily routine, so filling them full of treats and things that they shouldn't be eating large amounts of every single day is not the best idea. With these box puzzles, I recommend padding them out a little bit, either with some tissue or if you have some hay, using that instead. Not only will that help to stop some of the food from falling through those holes and make it a bit more of a challenge for your hamster, but it will also provide a nice strong scent. So put that hay in. I sort of pressed it up against the side, making a little hole in the middle. And then I'm going to take a teaspoon of the seed mix and just pour that into the center there. I'm also going to add in some dried herbs, just a little bit, just to contribute to the smell. Smell is another one of those enrichment types that gets overlooked, but it's a good thing to keep in mind when you're designing your hamster's enclosure, their toys, when you're just trying to think up new ways of giving them enrichment. Adding things in that have got nice smell, like hay, like herbs, including adding in live plants if possible, like basil, thyme, rosemary, things with a nice strong smell. It's all of the little things like that that add together to make a good setup and to give your hamster a good quality of life. So now we're just going to close this box the same way we did the other end, just tucking those flaps together. And there we go. That is one of the oldest and most simple treat puzzles that you can make for a hamster. Requires 1 toilet roll tube. This happens to be one of Lotus's favorite puzzle toys, so I'm going to make a few more of these, and then we're going to make the next puzzle. I settled on making 5 of those puzzles this month, and they smell gorgeous. For the next puzzle, I'm using a 6-egg egg box, some tissue, and that same seed mix. Once again, this is another old school DIY. All the best ones are. I'm going to cut into the top of the little egg holder parts. You don't have to use a craft knife for this. You can use scissors, or you can just tear it if that's easier for you. Really doesn't matter if it looks neat. You want to remove the bottom of each of the little egg holders, and then, opening it up, you just want to stuff it full of, well, you can use hay if you want to, you don't have to use tissue. I'm using tissue because it's getting a little colder. Lotus could benefit from having a little more nesting material available to him for him to take down to his burrows and keep nice and warm. So we're going to put plenty of this in. Then we're going to take that seed mix and scatter. Oop. Try and get it in the box and not all over the counter and the floor. And then close the lid. And in each of these holes, we're going to put more of the shredded tissue. This one will take him a little longer to figure out, which is great. And once you've stuffed all the nesting materials in the holes, it's done. It's ready to go. It's that quick, that easy, that simple. And again, you can throw some smelly herbs in here for some olfactory enrichment, or you can just leave it as it is. I got cold, so I'm making noodles. These are called Matchbox Puzzles. They're made from toilet roll tubes. You take 2 strips of toilet roll, you fold it into a square shape, and then you slide one inside the other, like a matchbox, and you use these for hiding larger treats. So a good example would be walnuts, which are quite big. Hazelnuts are another thing you could hide in a matchbox. Or you could make your own seed balls. They're very easy to make. You just mix some flour with some water to create a paste. Then you mix some seeds in with that paste, form a ball, dry it in the oven, and once it's dry it will be very hard and you can just pop it into the matchbox, close it up, and give it to your hamster. So to make these, once again we're just going to flatten down toilet roll tube, flatten it one way, and then flatten it the other way. So now you've got the square, and then you want to cut strips, and then you take 2 of those strips and you just slot them inside each other, and that's it, it's done. To make it harder, all you have to do is make sure the drawer is a lot smaller than the section it slides into. You can just slide it in there and push it all the way to the middle. And that's going to make it a little harder for your pet to get into. So if your hamster finds this style a little bit too easy, try them on this one and see if they can figure it out. Check on my noodles. Oh. Yes, Elizabeth? Yeah, he's on his way home now. I know, he's running a bit late, isn't he? Spicy. Alright, so how many puzzles? I'll just drop. Oh, my frog. I made some frogs. I'm gonna need you to use your imagination when I tell you that this is a frog. They're made from the corners of egg boxes. I will insert a clip here showing how I made them. These are also for putting seed balls or larger treats in. You hide them under the back of the tongues. This one barely counts as a puzzle because it's incredibly easy, but it does make the food just a touch harder to get to. Where is a box? Try and clear some space on this counter. We need to make some treat balls to go in these, so we'll do that next. Ah, these things keep jumping off the counter. Matchboxes. Oh no! It landed in the dog's water bowl. Yeah. To make the seed balls, we need some flour and we need some seeds. I'm going to make my own oat flour using oats and a coffee grinder. Oat flour. You take some of your flour. Doesn't have to be oat flour. Just my personal preference. You add some water. Give it a good mix. And if you leave that to sit for a minute, it'll soak up all of that water and thicken up into a really nice paste. Here you can see the consistency of it once it's thickened. And now you can just add that into the seeds just a little bit. You don't want to use too much of the paste. just enough to bring all the seeds together. And now you can just scoop it out into small balls onto a baking tray, shape it together as best you can. You can try and do this with your hands, it's very sticky. You can ignore these are treats for the wild birds. And I'm going to throw these into the oven at about 125 degrees Celsius, basically until they're hard. You don't want them to be squidgy, you don't want them to be sticky. They should be nice and crunchy when they're done. 125, probably get my oranges out of there. I like to leave a small gap in the oven door to let the extra moisture escape. I find that helps them dry a lot quicker. Another thing you can do with this paste that Lotus is going to hate me for. Toilet roll tube. Take your paste. Ooh. Smear it on the inside of the tube. Try not to put it right at the edges, put it more in the center. And then throw some seeds and herbs and anything nice and stinky that your hamster loves. Paste that in there as well. This is similar to the commercial herb logs you can buy. Basically it's a toilet roll tube with a bunch of herbs stuck to the outside, which is great. Lots of hamsters love them. Lotus loves them. However, it's too easy. Everything's on the outside, it's easy to reach. Whereas this, he's actually got to go in, he's got to maneuver himself, he's got to think about it. You just want to try and add as much challenge, you want to add as much challenge to their meals as you can. I am going to throw, what herbs have we got? We've got some dill, he likes that.
Hey baby.
No, you're good, I'm vlogging, so you're just going to be in the video.
I did a pretty good job of making some bricks. They've still got sharp corners. The stuff on the outside got soaked. Apparently it's a really good heat insulator, a really good moisture insulator too.
I wasn't being sarcastic. Very impressed.
I'm going to put the verse against the side of the house, so it's at 5 grand on the house. Smart.
Get out. I'm just throwing a bunch of his favourite herbs on here. This is going to be stinky, very, very stinky, in the best way. And once again, you can dry this in the oven, just make sure it's at a low heat, because cardboard, combustible, when it's completely dry, throw it to your hamster. So we've got the one big seed tube, and I've made 2 smaller ones. And in the meantime, the seed balls have finished drying, so they're nice and hard. So now we can take all of our little puzzles and we can put the seeds inside them. We shall start with one of the little froggies. We'll remove his tongue and then you place the seed in there and pop his tongue back in his mouth. There we go. So the seed ball is hidden behind his tongue there. Like I say, that one is a very easy puzzle. I don't think it will be too difficult for Lotus to break into that. And we'll put some in the matchboxes. Slide out the drawer, pop the treat in, close it back up. Last puzzle toy that I'm going to make tonight. Big cardboard tube, little cardboard tubes. I'm going to flatten those, bend them over, and just pop them inside. Getting very tired now. Sort of arrange the folded tubes inside and just keep stuffing those in there, and then you just fill that full of seeds and hay and other tasty things. And this is one of the harder puzzles. I've not tried this on a hamster in quite a few years because I tend to find that it's a little too difficult for a lot of them, but I have a feeling that Lotus is going to enjoy this, so I'll make a second one of those and then I'm going to bed. I say that, but I realise I won't be going to bed. Once I finish this, I'll be cleaning up this mess. I won't put the treats in these now because it's really quick to do. You just drop them in the holes and throw it in the cage, so those can stay like that until they're ready to be used. We've got the egg box, we've got the 5 hay box things, we've got the matchboxes, we've got the frogs, we've got the chew tunnels. That should be enough to keep him busy for the next couple of weeks. So now I'm going to tidy up this mess and take myself off to bed. And I'll throw in some footage at the end of this of Lotus attacking one of these things. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.